Hello and welcome to Dare to Know, interviews with quality and reliability thought leaders. I'm Tim Rogers, and today we have a special interview recorded by Fred Schenkelberg in January 2017 at the Rams Conference in Orlando, Florida. Fred's guest was Larry Leemis, professor of mathematics at the College of William and Mary. Dr. Leemis received his BS and MS degrees in mathematics and his Ph.D. in industrial engineering from Purdue University. He's taught at Purdue, the University of Oklahoma, and Baylor University. His consulting and research work includes contracts with AT&T, NASA Langley Research Center, Delco Electronics, the Department of Defense, the Federal Aviation Administration, the Yorktown Naval Weapons Station, and the Argonne National Laboratory. His research and teaching interests are in reliability and simulation. Fred talked with Dr. Leemis about his book, Learning Base R. Let's join Fred's interview with Dr. Larry Leemis.
All right, this is Fred Schenkelberg, and I'm very happy to be sitting down with Larry Leemis. Hey, Larry.
Hey, Fred.
Hey. We met at Rams, I think, a couple of years ago or so. You've regularly done tutorials there on reliability distributions, if I remember right. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is right.
And I apologize. I haven't had the chance to sit down with you through the tutorial. I think we've been booked opposite each other on too many occasions, as it happens at Rams. There's just too many things going on. But I wanted to sit down and ask you a couple of questions, because you've contributed quite a bit to the reliability space as an author. I've seen papers. I did a quick search on Google Scholar, and you've got papers going back into the mid-'80s. So you've been at this reliability and the mathematics and reliability for quite some time.
You bet. Yeah, I started right off of my Ph.D., and my Ph.D. advisor, Bruce Schmeiser, was in simulation, but he was nice enough to take me on, so I was able to do a little bit of reliability work. And I kind of got hooked on reliability with the whole bathtub-shaped hazard function, which I know you know about. Mm-hmm. And that kind of drew me in, the fact that you can have a hazard function that applies to both manufactured items and people.
That's right, yeah.
Kind of drew me in.
Well, that's cool. Well, I'm glad you stayed with it and contributed. Now you're at William and Mary, if I remember correctly. And
that's right.
You're in the mathematics department, and you teach math and statistics. But I noticed in your online bio that you also have a reliability class.
I am teaching that this semester, and we basically spend the first half of the course going over probabilistic models. So there, are hazard functions and competing risks and, the Cox proportional hazards model, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And then the second half of the course is made up of all statistical topics, which is how do you take these models along with a data set and fit them?
Okay. So a bit of regression data analysis kind of thing?
You bet.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot to put in one course, but do you get to talk about reliability very much in that, or is it more just the math underneath it?
I think we do a little bit of reliability. So the first couple chapters are spent on, series systems, parallel systems, K out of N, reliability functions, reliability bounds. We even touch on fault trees just a little bit. Okay. So some of the reliability topics get hit. It's a combination, I'd say, Fred, of probably reliability and survival analysis.
Okay. And what kind of students do you get into that? Are they math students, or are they engineering students, or?
Well, if you have a second for a plug, I might as well plug the program.
Yeah.
We have a program here called the Computational Operations Research Program.
Okay.
And so we have master's students who spend 2 years here, and reliability is one of their electives that they can take. So basically the master's degree is 11 courses, and reliability is an elective, and I have 22 in there this semester.
Oh, excellent. So, there's a lot of talk about the Internet of Things and more sensors being connected, vehicles and on home appliances and on factory equipment and just you name it, it seems to be getting wired into the network and collecting data. Is that one of the aims of providing people to deal with those data sets?
It is, you're going to see more and more of that. We don't do that specifically in this course, but we do all of the thinking behind what you would do if you had a data set of that nature.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just guessing there. I should probably sit down and take your course or go do some of that stuff. But all of this stuff has become, this computational work that we do has really become possible because of the computers that are sitting on our desks and sometimes our wrist. And I wanted mostly to talk to you for this Dare to Know episode about a book you published last year called Learning Base R. And I believe it's published in 2016 by Lightning Source was the publisher.
Lightning Source is a printer.
And
so this is self-published and did that to keep the cost down for the students.
Oh, cool. I wouldn't have known that. You showed me a book when we were at Rams, and it's very well done. I wanted to ask you, what was the incentive behind the tornado imagery on the cover?
Well, with a programming language, it's very hard to know what you put on a cover that's going to tell somebody about that. What I wanted was a bunch of different images, and you can put those like in a N by M matrix, one image after another. But I thought, well, we'll put them in a tornado. It's hard with a programming language, Fred, to know what to put on the cover. But my daughter designed the cover, and it seems to do it.
Well, it's professionally done. And the book is well laid out and published. I guess that's part of what Lightning Source is capable of doing, is giving you a really well printed book at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I guess all you have to do supply to them is the interior and the cover, and then they take it from there and they'll print it.
Okay. Well, I just had a thought about the cover again, but we'll get off of the self-publishing stuff. But I like the idea that it keeps the cost down. I think when I saw the book and flipped through it, and I'm looking at the table of contents now, these books, especially when they're aimed at college students, they could be $100 or more. And this has got a lot of content in it.
Yeah, it's to try to get away from all of the costs associated with going with a publisher, because you have a big hierarchy there that you have to support when you do that.
That's cool. Well, I remember what it was. Is you've obviously seen the O'Reilly publishing books, and so they have JavaScript and all kinds of different software packages. They went with fish and animals as their cover art.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, a lot of languages, for example, I think LaTeX uses a lion, and I know there's a penguin that shows up somewhere. So yeah, I think that's getting more and more popular, is to attach an animal to a language. I had never thought of it till you brought it up, but that's a good point.
Well, the other part is that the artwork is from the late 1800s. A lot of line drawings were done then, and they're in the public domain now, so you don't have to pay for the image, and they're pretty cool.
Yeah, very, very nice.
That's cool. All right, so when I look online, and I have a guilty myself back when I first was learning S+, and now in S, and now with R, most of the books either talk about a package or a way of analyzing data or presenting data. They're almost always a package that's within R. I mean, your book's focused on R as it comes out of the download. I was going to say package, but there's no package. But
you bet, right out of the box.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of the books you will find that do R, and there are dozens and dozens of these books, will do one of two things. They will either focus on a technique, so it might be regression in R, or survival analysis in R, or something to that effect.
Or time series, or graphics.
Any number of things. And then the second group seem to focus on a particular package, and there are some dynamite packages out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to write one that just simply focused on what you start with in R. So this would be a book. I use it in a freshman seminar that I'm teaching this semester.
Mm-hmm.
And I also use it in a graduate course. It's for somebody that is either brand new to programming languages and wants to start with R, or somebody that knows programming languages and wants to pick up the R syntax. And basically, it's to introduce them to the base language. Then once you know the base language, you can take off from there. You can shoot off into regression or shoot off into a package like ggplot2 or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, ggplot2 is Hadley Wickham's package that really makes some pretty cool graphics and allows you to do those things. But it really is based on the base R. You still need to know what a vector is or what a matrix is or an array or a data frame. If those are all foreign terms to you, then R is it goes back to that tornado.
Right,
right. So when a package says, "Oh, input the data frame with a certain characteristics to it," you need to know what that is. So this becomes the reference that can get you through all that stuff. But you mentioned a couple of times that it's a programming language. When I first started using S+ and R, it was really at command language and just exploring my data sets. I was able to create a histogram way faster that looked way better than Excel ever did. And so I would just type in HIST and parentheses in my data set file, and off it would go. I would learn just enough, and I never realized I was learning a programming language until much, much later.
In the book, I try to take the three programming constructs, namely conditional execution, iteration, and recursion, and I push those towards the end of the book. And it's designed to do two things. First of all, not intimidate somebody that's not a programmer. But second, exactly what you said. R has two real entry points. One is as an interactive command language. That is, I draw a histogram of the data set. I look at the histogram, and then from the histogram, perhaps I do something else. I maybe calculate percentiles, or I put a box plot out there, or I put two empirical cumulative distribution functions together on one plot. And there's that interactive side. But then after you get done with the interactive side, there's also this programming side. So I tried to keep the two separate, but I start with the more interactive side because I think it's a lot easier, a lot less intimidating to a new programmer.
Well, it is. You see, what it made me realize, and looking back on it, is that, I learned, I said, this has got to be able to do a histogram. So I had a reference that had, here's the command, HIST.
You bet.
And then there's a bunch of elements you can set within that to say, well, how many bins do I want? Or what title do I want? Or do I put a box around the whole thing or not? Or what's the axis labels? And you start learning all of those different elements that you can, I'm sure that's not the right word for it, but all those pieces that can modify how the histogram eventually turns up. And so that is just one command.
You bet. Right? Yeah, and I like that about the language, in that you can drop into it and do something fairly quickly, and then if you want to modify that and make the graphic better, you can get to that level too. So it's got that advantage to it.
Well, if I remember right, it's like a up arrow or down arrow on my keyboard just takes the last entry and repeats it so that I have what I did last time, and I can edit it just slightly and don't have to retype the whole thing in. I found that shortcut very early and very helpful.
Yep. I use it all the time.
So once you start putting together these languages and you start seeing the potential of this, and what I've certainly found is that I'll have say a data set that has 15 different factors or variables in it, and I want to create a histogram for each one of them. Well, I could very quickly create a program that does that. And I can make it my histogram, and it has all of my syntax built right into it. And I just put in identify the different data sets, and it becomes a very, very simple one-line program.
You bet.
And so it's very, very powerful in that way. Now I'm going through the table of contents, and it looks like at some point you start getting into the probability parts, binomial, Poisson, all those other things. I don't see Weibull or log normal in there. Is that all buried in the other distributions, or?
Well, what I tried to do was make each chapter something that people could read in 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
So because of that, when you get out to the probability chapter, and again, I don't know what the reader knows in terms of probability, so I decided to just go with only 2 discrete distributions, and those were the binomial and the Poisson, and only 2 continuous distributions, and those were the uniform and the normal.
Right.
So even though I wonder if I'm going to take the book right now and take a peek to see if I don't have the Weibull out there, at least a reference to it, that would not be a bad thing to do. I'm checking right now.
Okay. And you did mention that you're teaching this course to a freshman group, so that they may not have even had exposure to the quality systems, or, and so introducing binomial and normal might be a big step for them in and of itself.
At least to the freshmen it is. And I'm checking right now. What I did in the end of that probability chapter was, you remember how it is, they have a single letter, which is D, P, Q, or R.
That's right. Telling
you if it's the probability density function, the cumulative distribution function, a quantile, or a random variate. And then that's followed by the name of the distribution. I did give the names of all the distributions, for example, beta, Cauchy, gamma, Weibull, etc. So I do have a table in there with that, but I don't go into much detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and one of the things that comes out of seeing this long list this table of contents, is that there's quite a bit you can do without even loading any factors, or without loading any packages, the add-ons to the base R. And I mean, but having those fundamentals, that's. Do you see the benefit of that? People that have gone through and spent the time to learn the base R versus ones that dive in, say, with ggplot right from the start?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that if somebody jumps into any package initially, they may kind of hit the wall fairly quickly, because the data structures in R are kind of tough to get your mind wrapped around. I think vectors, matrices, and arrays are pretty easy, but when you get to lists and data frames, there's a few more nuances to them. And so I think going through something like this is helpful, just to get the fundamentals in place and then build off of that foundation.
I'm going to have to get a copy of this. Maybe I should ask you to sign a copy for me and send it over.
Oh, I can send them to you, Fred. Easy to do.
Okay. Is the idea is that, I don't use R day in and day out. So I'm by no means an expert. I have been using the language or its precursors for decades. Yet anytime I get a new data set, somebody sends me a file set in Excel, heaven forbid, it's usually so messy and so convoluted that I have to pull the book back out to figure out, well, one, how do I import it from Excel or from a CSV file or some other format? And then how do I build that data frame again?
Right. Right.
So something like this would be very, very handy. I still go back to Phil Spector's book from, I think it was from S Plus to get some of that, and Chambers' book. I don't know when it was published on S. But this seems to be a bunch more updated and concurrent with the current versions of R. Do you see R changing very much at the base level?
No, they're pretty consistent. In terms of, there's that term in computer science that's known as upward compatibility. Mm-hmm. They're pretty careful. The people that are on the committee that puts R together, I find that I can write, or I can pull out programs which were written in S plus even 15 and 20 years ago, and they tend to still run. So the base package is, of course, always changing, but they don't change it all that much.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to call Bill Meeker about that, because I'm sure you've seen his Splita program in S plus.
Yeah, that's a wonderful program.
Every year I see him at some conference someplace, and I say, so where's the R package for Splita? He says, oh, I'm working on it. So,
Right. Well, he's kind of moved over. His focus now is in, I believe, Jump.
That's right. Yeah. And he has a lot of fun with the Jump in that package, and it's evolving. I think he's had a huge impact on that. It's got a long ways to go to catch up to R in its versatility. So I'm still partial to a free package that has such a community of support behind it, and books like yours to make it very accessible. So in all of this work, in the R, the base R book that you've published and stuff, I want to say thanks for putting it together and helping your students to get a handle on this language, and also your reliability course. I think that's a start for a career for a good number of them. But where can people find out more about your program at the university, or a copy of this book?
Well, for the program we have here, that's computational operations research. You could probably just go to Google and put in computational operations research, William and Mary, and you'll get a link there at William and Mary to the program. Mm-hmm. And we'd love to have people apply. It's a smaller program. We probably have about 10 new students per year, which puts about 20 in residence at a time. Mm-hmm. So that's the computational operations research program. And then in terms of the book, if you just go to Amazon and either put in my last name, which is Leemis, Leemis, or if you just put in Learning Base R, that should get you to the book, and hopefully get it shipped to you for free.
Oh, that's cool. And I'll put it in the show notes also. So for those that are looking for those links and stuff, I'll add those into the notes. And you can find the show notes under reliability.fm is the domain, and then look for the show that's called Dare to Know. And you'll see the episode with Larry in it and those links and so on. And so what's next, Larry? What are you working on next besides the base R?
Well, I'm trying to get together a 2-semester sequence of books. The first one is a 1-semester course in probability, mm-hmm. and that would be calculus based. And then the second one would be a 1-semester course in mathematical statistics. And both of those 2 books would include a good bit of R in them, mm-hmm. because that just seems to be the way the statistical community is going right now. And so anyhow, I'm working on them. I have the probability book. It is out as a first edition. I'd like to update it to a second edition, because I think there's enough new exercises and material mm-hmm. to warrant that. And then right now I have the mathematical statistics book in draft form, but I'd have to do a bit of work on it to get it ready to go to print.
All right. Well, I think the third one I want to ask you to work on is the Splita. Maybe partner up with Bill and get that, get a book around Splita and get the software over on R.
Oh, I would, you and me both. I would love to have that happen. That would be great.
Yeah. No, well, thanks so much, Larry, for sitting down and talking to me. And I look forward to catching up with you again at the Rams conference, if not before, if our paths cross. And folks can find this episode on Dare to Know. It'll be out on iTunes and other places. And if you like the episode, let us know and give us a rating and review on iTunes. It really does help with the show and promoting the show and letting others find it. Also lets us know that somebody's actually listening and appreciating it. That always comes in handy. And we do, Larry, I do get messages from time to time from people that are listening and really appreciate the insights behind the authors and professors and business leaders that are, in large part, shaping our community as reliability professionals. So I appreciate you taking some time to provide a little of that background for us.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, Fred. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Larry. Talk to you later.
See ya.